When to talk about past relationships, finding the right time. One of the most delicate and often awkward topics in a new relationship is the question of when to talk about past relationships. Everyone has a history, and as relationships progress, it's natural for curiosity about each other's past to arise. The tricky part is determining when it's appropriate and how much to share. While there's no universal timeline for broaching the subject, certain factors can guide you in making that decision. Understanding the context, timing, and your partner's comfort level will help ensure that these conversations are productive and deepen your connection rather than causing tension. 1. The early stages, tread lightly. In the very beginning of a relationship, it's often best to focus on building a bond based on the present rather than delving into the past. You're still getting to know each other and forming first impressions, so bringing up ex-partners too early can be overwhelming or send the wrong message. At this stage, your goal is to establish a connection and explore the future possibilities between you, not to dwell on what went wrong in previous relationships. During early dates, it's okay if the topic arises organically, but it's usually not necessary to go into detail. A brief mention, like acknowledging that you've dated before, is usually enough. If your partner presses for more information, it's perfectly acceptable to say, "I'd prefer to focus on us right now and talk about the past when we know each other better." 2. Once you're more comfortable, introducing the topic. As the relationship starts to grow more serious, the conversation about past relationships may become inevitable. By this point, you have likely established some trust and a deeper emotional connection. This is usually a more appropriate time to bring up your past if it feels relevant to the current state of your relationship. You don't need to set aside a formal time to talk about it. These conversations can often happen naturally when the moment feels right. For instance, if you and your partner are discussing your individual growth or significant life experiences, sharing how a previous relationship shaped you might be appropriate. It's important to approach this conversation without making it seem like you're still dwelling on the past. Be clear that your focus is on your current relationship and that you're sharing for context, not comparison. 3. The importance of honesty and boundaries. When the time comes to talk about your past relationships, honesty is key. However, there's a fine line between being open and oversharing. You don't need to disclose every detail about your past, especially if it may cause unnecessary pain or jealousy. Instead, focus on the lessons you've learned or how you've grown from previous experiences. If you've had challenging relationships, it's okay to mention them, but avoid painting your exes in a negative light or getting caught up in bitter memories. Boundaries are important in these conversations. If your partner seems uncomfortable or if the conversation is becoming too intense, it's okay to pause and revisit the topic later. Similarly, if your partner shares something that makes you uncomfortable, it's perfectly acceptable to express your feelings and set boundaries about how much you want to hear. 4. Assessing your partner's readiness. Just because you're ready to talk about past relationships doesn't mean your partner is. Pay attention to their comfort level and cues. If they seem anxious or hesitant when the topic is mentioned, it may be best to hold off or approach the subject more gently. Some people are naturally more curious about their partner's romantic history, while others prefer not to delve into it too much. If your partner asks about your past, be mindful of how much detail they're asking for and what their underlying motivations might be. Are they trying to understand how you've changed over time, or are they fishing for reassurance? The way you frame your answers can significantly influence how the conversation unfolds. 5. Avoiding comparison and jealousy. One of the biggest risks of discussing past relationships is unintentionally making your partner feel compared to your ex. Even if you had positive experiences in past relationships, framing them in a way that makes your current partner feel inadequate or insecure can damage the relationship. Instead of focusing on what your ex did or didn't do, frame the conversation around your personal growth and how it has led you to where you are now. Jealousy can also arise if past relationships are discussed too frequently or in too much detail. To avoid this, keep the conversation balanced. Make it clear that your focus is on building something new and unique with your current partner, rather than recreating or comparing to a past relationship. 6. When not to talk about past relationships. There are also times when it's best to avoid talking about past relationships altogether. For example, in moments of conflict, it can be tempting to compare your current partner to an ex. This is almost always a bad idea. Bringing up past relationships in the heat of an argument can come across as accusatory or manipulative, which can further escalate the conflict. Additionally, if you're not over a past relationship, it may be best to work through those feelings before entering a new one. If unresolved emotions are influencing your current relationship, it may be more helpful to address those through personal reflection or therapy rather than bringing them into conversations with your new partner. Conclusion: talking about past relationships doesn't have to be a daunting task. When approached thoughtfully, these conversations can help deepen trust and mutual understanding. Timing, sensitivity, and clear communication are essential. Remember that the goal isn't to relive the past but to acknowledge it as part of your journey to building a stronger future with your current partner.